So, after pulling myself through Ankara, I came to the conclusion that this is one of the most cumbersome, flawed, and boring games I ever played in my entire life, excluding actually broken games. Before we start though, I would like to take a look at the company behind Ankara because I think those kinds of things are interesting. And I'm fully aware that this might be boring for most people, so fuck off? Yeah. So, Ankara was developed by Chibig, apparently a Spanish games comedy, and was released in October 2016. They claim to have released Deiland, Tiny Planet, which is Deiland but inferior, then Ankara, then Deiland for PC, and now they're working on Amara, which I'm looking forward to. I'm kind of hyped for that game. But they released more than 4 games, so either this is a lie or they are ashamed of what they did before, because if you look at the App and Play Store, you will find out that the first title is called AnimePose3D, and it is exactly what the title describes. There's nothing more to it. After that we have Chibi Town, a typical gacha game, kind of. It's a city builder mixed with something? Honestly, I have no interest in that game, but you can clearly see the use of timers here, which will become important later. Almost every game in Chibigs Gameography has some sort of time gating in it. Moving on, we have AnimePose3D. It is exactly what you expect. After that we have Bug Hunter, The Secret of Algebra, or Algebra Bug Hunter, which is confusing. It definitely has algebra themes, but it's a puzzle game. There's nothing special here. Sorry. Next up we have Pirate Life, and I wouldn't call this a game. I would call this a 2D scene maker. It is definitely not a game. It is impressive how many interactions there are between the objects you can drag and drop, but that's it. Finally we have Deiland, the mobile version, which is the inferior version of Deiland. Here we have a farming simulator a la Stardew Valley or Harvest Moon or even Animal Crossing, but on a much smaller scale. This is also the first time you can see the problem with timers. Every action takes literal time. You want to harvest some crops? 15 seconds. You want to mine some stones? Another 15 seconds. You want to chop down a pine? Another few seconds. The gameplay basically comes down to, please waste my fucking time. But for whatever reason, as soon as I started playing the game, I wanted to keep playing. One of the reasons being that the game promises you more. If you do enough of A, you can unlock a B. If you do enough of B, you can unlock C. If you do enough of C, you can get the D. In Deiland's case, it would be something like plant pines, chop down the pines, and build a hammer. Use a hammer to get the stones, build a well, plant some crops, use the harvest to feed yourself, unlock and upgrade a bunch of stuff, rinse and repeat. Once you see through this strategy, you might lose interest in the game because there's really nothing more to it. The gameplay boils down to click on things. You click on something and then time passes, and then you click on other things and more time passes, until you have enough to unlock more things that allow you to click on other things and waste more time. Funny enough, we will see this exact same thing in the future entries, but let's move on with the next title called VR Fantasy. Can't talk about that because I can't get my virtual machine to run it properly. But it exists. Yeah, WIF Soccer Battles is soccer with knights, and even though I like knights, I'm not interested in soccer whatsoever, so I refrain from judging anything. Next up would be Ankara, but they released one other game called VR Zombie Survival after Ankara. I can't run it on my machine, therefore I have no opinions, just wanted to mention that it exists. Finally, we have Ankara. Ankara starts with the player character Mu or Mu, let's call her Dora. So the game starts with the player character Dora from the 5th Explorer team crash landing on a planet. Dora can't really repair her ship, but she can send a signal for help if she gets the parts necessary for a communication device. As you probably noticed, this is a mobile game, so I will refrain from judging graphics, which I don't usually do anyways. So the tutorial starts and you get some provisions from your ship's pantry and go explore the planet. If you follow the instructions of the tutorial, you will soon meet the first Ank. Anks are the natives of this planet. The first Ank you meet is a merchant and he teaches you the basics of crafting and sends you to Chief Koda, another Ank that runs a city nearby. You arrive at the city and you give the chief a weird stone you found lying around. Those are magical, apparently. Chief Koda then informs you that the Anks are leaving the cities they've built. The chief gives you then a sphere and sends you to a teleportation device nearby. You drop the sphere on the device and teleport to the hunting party where you are attacked by monsters. You fuck them up, and the hunting party tells you how to build a spear and the location of the first piece you need to build the comm device. After defeating whatever was protecting the piece you needed for the comm device, you're back to the hunters and they send you back to Chief Koda. He teaches you how to build a bridge. With that you can make your way to Miner Chem. Chem of course teaches you how to make a pickaxe and mine materials. I think you know where this is going. From now on your job is to find an Ank and make them happy. Every Ank you meet will either teach you a dish, teach you a potion, or teach you how to craft something. At some point Koda's village gets attacked and he dies. That sounded way happier than I wanted to. The hunting party tells you that you need 3 magical McMuffins. 1 from the Temple of Ice, 1 from the Temple of Life, and 1 from the Temple of Fire to defeat the evil forces that might be behind the attack on Koda. Finding those temples are not really difficult, you just need to explore the map, but having everything ready to place those fuckers is the actual problem. And with that perfect transition, let's talk about game systems. The map is a 10x10 square. The squares are all connected horizontally, but not all of them are connected vertically. Meaning you might have to walk a lot because the place you want to go might be directly above you on the map, but there's no connection to that tile. There is really no reason for that. It's just cumbersome and prolongs the game for no reason at all. While the teleporting stations definitely help, it would have been better if every camp had one of those things so that instead of constantly having to walk somewhere, I could just teleport there because I, for example, forgot something. Or there could be one tile with the teleporting station in it and every adjacent tile had a different camp. Either way, the way it was implemented is just fucking infuriating, especially late in the game where you have to have a bunch of ingredients ready to give some asshole Ank. And with that, we arrive at ingredients and inventory. In the beginning of the game, you can get some food out of your ship's pantry. You will need to use that pantry constantly. Every time you're done with a mission, you should go back there and drop all the stuff you don't need right now, but you might need in the future. Why that is will become clear in a moment. The main problem is, once you teleport there, you can't teleport back to the place you came from. So it will happen often that you actually have the ingredients that the Anks want, but you don't have it with you because some genius thought it would be a good idea to have an inventory limit. In a game where you have to have a lot of resources at all times, you have an inventory limit. Who thought this was a good idea? Honestly, I want to know who thought this was a good idea. The transportation method is already fucked up, which I could forgive, but on top of the shitty transportation method, you kept the inventory space in a game where you have to have a lot of resources ready at all times to craft and finish missions. Has anyone thought that this might be frustrating and boring as fuck? Okay, so let's say you uncap the inventory space, which you should by the way, and the teleportation device lets you teleport wherever you want. 2 huge problems of this game would be solved in an instant. But the game is not only about the inventory space and hiking through the jungle. It is also about destroying wildlife and terraforming the planet. At some point you get a shovel that you can use to dig up dirt and place dirt down, therefore elevating or lowering the ground. These actions take time. In the beginning something like 5 seconds, and once you upgrade the shovel to max level, something along the lines of 1 or 2 seconds. I understand the idea behind putting a timer on an action, but that's not a very engaging way to entertain the player. A good idea would, for example, be a QuickTime event or a minigame that is tied to an action similar to the QuickTime event we see in Deiland's fishing minigame. Or you could get rid of the timer and let it be instantly. Even without the timer, there's still the puzzle in quotation marks that you have to solve to go through the jungle. The timer adds nothing to the gameplay. It's just a waste of fucking time. I also understand that the timer is connected to the upgrades, but it should be tied to the amount of resources you get once you use your tools. Which is exactly what they did in Deiland. Let's go a step further though. Let's say you solve the timer issue, and you solve the inventory issue, and you solve the transportation issue. What do we have left? Combat. I am not sure why there is combat in this game. You know how turn-based combat systems are generally speaking just not good? Now imagine a turn-based system where there are no options. That is Ankora's combat system. You initiate a fight and wait until the opponent is dead. You might have to heal Space Dora every once in a while, but that's it. It's boring. It's fucking boring. Especially when you have to fight those Grim Reaper looking things that can heal themselves to full health. What? So you design a combat system. No. You don't design a combat system, and then you prolong the shitty combat system with another bullshit mechanic. What the actual fuck? You could get rid of the combat system and nothing would be lost. Good. Now that we talked about how every game system is kind of shit, let's talk about the missions. Most of the missions are kind of forgettable. I can remember maybe a handful of them, so let's start with the frustrating ones. In the Temple of Life, at some point you have to lure a mouse there. For that, you need cheese. You can get cheese by either crafting it yourself if you have enough milk, buying it, or defeating an anthropomorphic mouse that I think is broken. I mean, literally, the mouse back is broken. Once you get enough cheese, you should find a mouse somewhere around the tiles of the temple, and then you have to walk with the mouse to the temple. Is there a hint where a mouse could be? No. Is there anything that could help me find out where a mouse could be? No. How am I supposed to solve this problem then? Luck. And cheese, of course. Yep, there is no way to work towards this mission. At some point you will find a mouse that you have to lure from somewhere all the way down to the temple. Great quest design. Fucking amazing. I love it. I fucking love it. Luck and waiting. Amazing. At the same time, this is one of the quests I can actually remember. So yeah, think of that what you will. One similar quest that annoyed me was something I had to do for the Temple of Fire. My job was to get a thrush. Is there a hint where a thrush could be? No. Is there anything that could help you find a thrush? No. How am I supposed to solve this problem then? Again, luck and the knowledge that thrush spawn at lake areas. How the fuck am I supposed to know that? Also, the easiest way to get the thrush is to enter and leave the lake area until the thrush spawns. Again, amazing fucking design. Amazing. I love it. Fucking great. At the same temple, you need to give the priest Anks 2 to finish the quest line. How do you do that? You need to find another Ank called Yana and finish all their missions. Problem is that you also need to learn how to plant crops and build stone bridges. So you also need to finish Sankari's questline, and to finish Sankari's questline, you have to finish... Yeah, I think you can see where I'm getting there. Do A to do B to do C to get the fucking D. It's not very engaging, and not because there's something inherently wrong with this type of quest structure. It's just every single one of the game systems is boring, on top of the boring quest structure. Before I forget to mention it, they brought timers back. Long timers. So to finish Yana's questline, you have to plant 2 different sets of plants, and both of them take over 10 minutes to grow. And yeah, sure, you can do other stuff, but I finished everything else at that point. So I literally had to wait. And that is exactly what I did. And it was boring. 20 minutes of doing absolutely nothing. Of course, I just tapped out from the game and watched some YouTube videos, but that's not a very entertaining gameplay. If I have to tap out of a game, then your fucking game failed. But there's one interesting mission. Towards the very end of the game, you have to find Hoot, who is Yana's child. You find them somewhere on the map. You bring them back by doing whatever you did with the other villages as well. And at some point, Hoot gives you a love letter for the hunter called Umi, the first Ank you actually help after the hunters. This was a sweet mission that showed me that this game should be more about character interactions rather than the constant dangling of the fucking carrot, because a carrot might be attractive at the first hour, but after 20 hours of a carrot dangling, I think everyone gets bored of the fucking carrot. Good, so once you finish that shitty questline and get back to the Temple of Fire and give the priest his stupid fucking meal, they give you the McMuffin. With the McMuffin from the other two temples, you are allowed to enter the tile 53, which was closed off until now. An automatic dialogue triggers from the big bad himself, don't ask me their name, I don't know, and you get attacked at the same time by something that was protecting the other comm devices as well. The dialogue doesn't stop you from taking damage, so you could die here, because the game decided to deal you damage, even though you are in a dialogue. Nothing to add here, I just wanted to highlight that. You defeat the literally big bad guy and get the last piece of the comm device. The Interstellar Organization gets your message, you say your goodbyes, and you leave the planet. Nice. I don't want to see this game again. Honestly, there's so much wrong with this game. I can't even put it in words. I just wanted to play it because I wanted to know the prequel, basically, the prequel information about Deiland. That's the only reason I played this game. I fucking hate this game. It's bad. It's not good. Keep away from it. But I also have to mention, I probably played this game wrong. I think it was meant to be played in short bursts. You know, you finish one mission, then leave it, and then you finish another mission the next day. Still wouldn't recommend the game. It's bad, it's boring, it's better than Deiland Mobile, but the time wasting aspect is still there, and I fucking hate it. Finally, we arrive at Deiland, the good version. Before we start and complain about all the flaws in Deiland, I want to talk about the menu. It's really good. It's a decent menu, even though it looks like the Deiland mobile menu. Aside from the similarities, everything is better. They even have resolution options. Oh god, that's great. In the options though, the choices are always on the right side under the title of the option. It looks a little bit weird, it's more of a style choice, I know, but I think having the choice parallel to the titles would have been better. This is entirely subjective though, so don't sweat it. Still, great thing with the resolution thing, I love it. Anyways, I don't want to bore you with the menu design like I usually do. So once you start the game, you're greeted by a cinematic of a flying child. His name is Arko. You start like the other game by planting trees, crafting tools, and soon enough, Space Dora arrives at your planet, and she is thick! Holy fucking shit! She gives you a mission, and of course you make it your top priority to finish that mission. I have no idea what the first mission was, and I will not play this game from the start again, because it takes around 11 hours to finish this game, but I didn't record any of those, so fuck that. Like the other games, the quests are boring. I have only a handful of quests that I can actually remember. One of the quest lines lead you back to Ankora, for example, where Space Dora crashed her ship in the last game. There we'll find Umi, the hunter, and Hoot, Yana's daughter. Also the priest of the Ice Temple, but nobody cares about him, so let's forget about him. Anyways, there's one questline where you have to try to get those two back together because they are married. The only task I can remember from the questline, though, is that you have to make sushi. All the other things I remember from the questline is lore. For example, Hoot is expecting a child, and Umi and Hoot love each other. Before you arrived on the planet, they had a big fight. Both Anks are extremely stubborn, but they really care about each other. And Space Dora, in retrospective, is responsible for those two getting together. Again, this enforces my feelings that these games should be about stories and the characters rather than a bunch of quest lines that always require A to do B to do C to get the D. There's also one type of quest that only happens when two different visitors visit your planet at the same time. This is random and I don't think you need those quests to finish the story of the game, but the genius that thought this was a great idea is probably also responsible for the inventory cap in the last game. Fuck him. The final quest line leads you into a ship where you have to find your brother. Kind of. And after that, you have all pages of a book that tells you a story of some ominous dark force that corrupts princes all over the universe and corrupted your brother who you fought. I am invested in the story. I want to know what princes are. I want to know what the darkness is. I want to meet my other brothers. I want to know how humans use magic and technology in this universe. I want to know more about the Ankh. I want to know more about the other alien races. I want to know more about the pirates. But honestly, the story is really not that rewarding after so many hours of playing what boils down to a farming simulator. Boring questline aside, they kind of fixed the problem with timers. Everything still runs on a timer. Once you plant something, it can take up to 20 minutes to grow, but you can shorten that time by building wells and watering your plants. Like in Deiland Mobile, you only have 3 patches of land where you can plant crops and you can't make new patches of land. Trees, bushes and flowers can be planted on the surface of the planet itself. The actions themselves don't take long this time, so no 15-second timers for chopping down a tree, but it's still not very engaging. Like I said before, chopping down a tree or even planting something or any action really should be tied to a quick time event or a minigame that rewards you for doing well. For example, if you chop down a tree, a minigame starts where you have to swing your axe and hit the marks on the tree. The closer you hit the marks, the more resources you get. The upgrade system would be a little bit redundant in this case, but you could make the minigames easier and more rewarding the higher the tool level is, making the upgrade system relevant again. To a certain extent, I do understand the timers for the crops, and once you upgrade your tools, it's fairly easy to get a bunch of resources. But at some point, you just don't want to plant and wait until the resource is there to finish the mission. Again, and again, and again, and again. There's a lot of missions that need high tier resources, meaning that those high tier resources are just wasting your time, but you need those to finish the missions. I really don't know how to solve this issue, but I would first not make any timer go over 5 minutes, and second, tie crop growth to a minigame like every other action. One last thing about farming. Once you grow a bush or a tree on your planet, they will either drop fruits or seeds. Those will despawn after a short amount of time. I guess this is done so that the planet doesn't get flooded with seeds and fruits, but don't despawn the fruits and seeds. Just stop the timer and don't produce more fruits and seeds. Leave it there. It's extremely infuriating when you walk up to a fruit and seed and it despawns. Solve it in a different way. It sucks. Okay, so let's talk about the other part of the game, the combat. At this point, get rid of it. It was shit in Deiland Mobile, it was shit in Ankara, and it's still shit here too. Either do real-time combat or turn-based combat, but commit to one and develop it to its fullest extent. Now we had basically real-time combat, but it's boring. It was boring the first time you guys did it, it's still boring this time. Also, if you tie quest lines with getting resources from specific monsters, give me the option to actually search for those enemies without forcing me to wait for them to attack the fucking planet. There's a cave in the planet, put enemies in there. In general, for every project you do in the future, strike out everything that contains waiting in its design. Fuck waiting. Waiting is not a mechanic. It was boring in Deiland Mobile. It is still boring in Deiland too. Okay. So what do I think about Deiland? Deiland is 1,000 times better than anything else Chibig made before. There's still stupid game design choices lingering around, but they have improved in many areas. I really don't know. Still, with all its flaws, I would recommend at least trying Deiland out, especially if you don't want to play Animal Crossing, or Harvest Moon, or Stardew Valley. It's really a cheaper alternative to that. And now we arrive at the point where I'm worried and at the same time excited. Chibig's next game is Amara, which was successfully funded on Indiegogo. It plays in the same universe as Deiland and Ankora. It seems to have the same game mechanics, and I'm worried because of 2 things. What has been shown is that the quest design has not evolved beyond do A to do B to do C to get the D. They might have improved graphically and made the world bigger, but from what I can see, it's still pretty empty. I also fear that they will bring back combat, and I don't think they will fix the time mechanics. But there's also ocean levels, and sailing, and diving. Yeah, at this point, I just want to play the game. I'm excited to see the project done. Yeah, that's all I have to say. I think that's the reason I made this video. I don't know. It's very long. Fuck off. Alright, thank you for watching this extremely long video that I'm sure a lot of people will watch. If you disagree or agree with me on any of the things I said, please tell me in the comments. Yes, tell me in the comments. I might have missed something, I might gotten something wrong, I might just be a dumbass, which is pretty likely. Also follow me on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. Also subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment in the fucking comment section, you fucking dungus. Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks for watching all of this. It's extremely long. Sorry. And have a nice and wonderful day.